the first thing that they will experience is culture shock, and the second is just feeling out of place. One is, where is the next funding coming from? Because you want to either maintain your team or grow your team. One of the famous decisions that was made by Steve Jobs back then was they would not allow Flash, which if you're not flexible in a startup, then you're not going to succeed.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Better Engineering Management Podcast and unconventional thinking, deep gaming enthusiast, tech expert, tech lead, and also kind of out of the box thinking is some of the qualities that defines our today's guest, Chaitanya Ramavajjala. Please welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you for having me over.
Chaitanya is very good friend of mine, very old friend of mine. Chaitanya, please introduce yourself and give a small brief about your education and career.
Yeah, sure. So uh, uh, I've been to school with Pradeep during my undergrad days. Did computer science. Then came over to to US to get a master's in computer science, and I've been working in. I made a career out of in the mobile space. Been in this space for about 10, 12 years or so, ever since Apple opened up their app store to third-party developers, and that's what I've been doing since.
So Chaitanya, starting with the beginning, you have also done your higher studies in US, right? MS in Southern California. My question is, what are the main differences in education that you have observed in Indian colleges and what you have studied there, right? So what are the differences you have observed?
I think a lot of focus is on the why of what you're studying and what you're doing here in the US,
Okay, okay.
in which necessarily was not the focus back home in India, where you were just given some material and then people would read it and then move on with their lives and not really understand why that was being done, which many times sparks ideas on.
Because many times, many students want to pursue their career in US and America. They want to do higher studies also there. So I just wanted to shed some light, like what are some of the challenges that they should be ready to, face when they are kind of going from India to America or any other country, for getting higher education as well as kind of, pursuing their career in those countries.
I think this is by no means an exhaustive list. I think so. And what you want to think through is how to embrace the local culture and
Okay,
and
okay,
what people do there, because at the end of the day, your studies will open doors for you, but you're working with the people that are local to that area. So the more you are able to integrate in that society, the easier it is for you. And rather than shying away from it all, embracing them would make you happier as well,
okay.
and also uh, help you feel more connected with the people around you.
Chaitanya, one question which I have is because we know each other from long time.
Mhm.
During from college days itself, you were very much interested in lot of how should I say, lot of things which were not really taught in the curriculum. For example,
Yeah.
internet security
Yeah.
and even the architecture behind all this malware and viruses and lot of things which are not part of the curriculum, right?
Uh-huh.
How did that help you eventually, and if it helped at all, and what kind of uh, how does that fall along in your higher goals and higher kind of careers?
Yeah, I think I would say that it was whenever I was dabbling in that, it was sparked by curiosity, and the way it translated over, and more so in my professional career, was on how to really think from a different perspective. But that one skill that really helped me with is problem solving. And especially when you're looking at code, it is debugging. Like, how do you get to the root of the issue, or explain why something is happening, and create multiple scenarios and trace down the most likely scenario.
Because what a lot of times it happens, right? We come across a lot of students or even professionals who are studying something, but they also have a lot of side interests, right? And they don't necessarily pursue it or kind of don't, they juggle between the main, journey and their side careers, right? And side interests. So would you say that you should kind of put more focus on side interests also, or something which deeply interests you, is, even though it is not part of your core curriculum, and that can also open many doors of opportunities later?
I think it's a fine line. Is uh, the side interests can take many forms. It could be, if your main profession is, say, something in tech, your side interest could be repairing motorcycles, or doing something in the house.
They're
And
completely outside the domain of your main curriculum.
yeah, it
Okay,
could be completely outside of the domain
correct,
of
correct.
your expertise, or it could be very well within your domain expertise. So, what you want to think through is, do you want to make the thing switch? Do you want to do the thing that you love to do for money?
Money is the deciding factor here.
It's not the money is a deciding factor, but more
Hmm.
so that now the stakes change. Earlier you would do
Hmm.
it for earlier you would just do it for yourself. Let's say if you're either repairing your things or cooking, you would do it for yourself or people around you or people who you love. But when money exchanges hands, then the stakes are different and the expectations are different, and you may start out loving it, but you may not necessarily enjoy being part of it, because you you're not doing it because you love it. It's You're doing it because your lifeline, your livelihood is on the line. So you want to be, so which is why I said, it is a thin line. You
Hmm.
want to tread it carefully, where you don't start hating the thing you love. And if you have if you're there, if you've landed at the point where you're able to manage it or quit or have a game plan to explore something different, if start to dislike where is going, pursue it. Who knows, it might open other things for
Okay.
you.
Okay, interesting take on that. So Chaitanya, you have when you went to US, right? You started working in some very early startups, right? Like from the which have been just been seeded and all those kind of startups, right? What are
Mhm.
some of the major challenges that you faced there?
I think the one of the main thing is quite a few things that happen in the life span of a startup. One is, where is the next funding coming from? Because you want to either maintain your team or grow your team. The second is, who is who is your customer? Who are you selling it to? Sometimes the uh, customer you build out for is not the customer who you actually end up selling.
Start selling
Uh,
to.
yeah, selling to. And uh, and who's your competitor? How are they going to just steamroll you or not? And then uh, trying to just stay ahead of the curve. So those would be the uh, uh, some of the the challenges that come with
But at a personal level, did you face any challenges like in the sense that technology-wise or work pressure-wise, or kind of, because I was also working in a couple of startups in India, right? So I would tell you the major challenges that we faced, same, whatever you said, that was true. But there was always kind of dearth of funding, and there was a runway, right, which can always fall short, and you can be in trouble. But also, like working hours wise, it can be pretty demanding in India. For example, I was working here till 3 a.m. almost for almost like 2 years.
Mm.
So did you also go through those phases?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I've been in startups that where it was an idea, and I, along with a couple more people, were actually translating that into something that was tangible or a product or what have you. And that definitely skews your work-life balance more towards
Okay,
work than life.
okay,
And those were extremely long hours, and I was fortunate that I was young then to be able to
okay,
pull
okay.
that off. But yeah, it definitely puts a lot of strain on you, and if you have a family with you, then puts a lot of strain on them as well.
Can strain your relationships and all those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And what was the fun part of it all, like working in startups and kind of, because you have also seen, I think your first or second startup itself kind of succeeded, right? I mean, the sense that the product that guys were trying to build. Can you tell us briefly about that product also, and what was it like? I believe it was in the space of some browsers which were making a couple of things compatible, right?
So this was at a time when iPhones and Android phones that we know today was
Hmm.
just starting to grab the market share. So it was they were just starting to get popular, or they were popular and people wanted more of it. One of the famous decisions that was made by Steve Jobs back then was they would not allow Flash, which is irrelevant today, but back then it was one of the main areas of development where you could develop a lot of things in that space. But Apple would say, no, we're not going to do that, support it because of a myriad of reasons. But there was this big industry, one of them being Facebook games, that was entirely driven in Flash. And so the product that I had worked on was essentially acting as a bridge to allow these Flash games or Flash content be consumed on platforms that were not
Devices.
supported. Yeah, and it started out as supporting Flash in different platforms, but what it really morphed, it kept shifting to allowing, it sort of was leveling the play field for smaller developers who didn't have the
Hmm.
resources to build
Right.
iOS or mobile specific native apps, to just take their content, Flash content, and bring their games or
So
what
it
have you.
started from something and it became something else later, as we
Very
just
much so.
just discussing.
Yeah, very
Okay.
much so. And one of the other things that it came out was there was quite a lot of interest in the gambling space, because of what that
People like to
content was.
gamble. Okay.
Sorry.
Gambling space because people like to gamble. That's the reason.
Yeah. So outside of US, there was a lot of interest in the gambling space.
And many of those apps may not be natively supported by Apple and all those things, so they can just use your platform to kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there is a yeah, because
Okay.
they deal with a completely different set of restrictions and constraints that they have to work with.
Okay.
So this just let them. Their point of view was this would let them shortcut through a lot of hoops.
Interesting. So you, as we mentioned, there is a lot of discovery that happens in the startup, right? So first you start with some idea, but
Hmm.
it's not necessary that the same idea will remain all the way till the end. It keeps changing, it keeps evolving, and you have to be kind of, you have to embrace those new changes and then kind of see where the actual value would be. And it can be different for different kind of people, right?
Hmm.
Some people may just be happy playing, Android games on Apple smartphones, whereas some other people, as you mentioned, like who were in the gambling space, who are facing different kind of restrictions, would
Hmm.
kind of use this platform for a different kind of,
Yeah.
services.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, if you're not flexible in a startup, then
Hmm.
you're not going
Uh-huh.
to succeed. Uh,
Okay. And you have been working with startups only all the way along, or have you kind of also switched to bigger? I think you also worked with Zillow, right?
That's right. Yeah, I joined Zillow when it had just IPO'd, but the team itself, but the company itself was small. But I wouldn't say it was a start. It was at the scale of a startup, but it was a small company. And I think that continues to be the biggest company that I'd worked. It had grown manyfold in my time
Okay.
there,
Okay.
but that might have been the biggest company that I've worked for. It's been startups.
Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. And this is Chaitanya, one more thing I wanted to understand, like in your roles, right? How much of part you were also doing as like managing stuff apart from being, with the development team?
Is that like defining people's careers, or actually?
I mean, where you are more of a facilitator than kind of being just, doing your engineering roles, more like sprint planning or let us say deciding product roadmap and those kind of roles.
Oh, I see. I think I've been in that space for about the last 5, 6 years or so, and that's something I do today as well.
Okay. And was it easy to transition from that, like engineering roles to these management roles, or you would say there were some challenges there also?
I think there were bits and pieces were easy.
Mm-hmm.
Some pieces were not. The pieces that worked that had to do with anything that is tech was easy because that was what had been my main focus. But what you have to also switch to is, it's not just you who's working on it, say a team of people, and they necessarily may or may not be speaking the same language. They may not be tech people, they may be something else. Then making sure they are on the same page and they are
Mhm.
convinced and they are aligned and they are excited is the piece that is still a learning experience for me. So that is the part that was a bit more
challenging. Okay. The reason why I'm asking this question is because one of the things that we are trying to do on our channel is also help engineers become better managers. So that's where I wanted to know, like, what are some of the tips you would like to give for people who are, let's say, in the role of senior software engineers or tech leads, but want some more responsibilities as a manager, like planning sprints or planning roadmaps and kind of handling people. So,
I see. I think uh, there are quite a lot of books written on it. I can give the names of the books in a bit. That you may I think
I mean, what I would say is from your own experience, let us forget the books. What has worked for you actually
what has worked, listening to people.
listening to
That
people? Okay.
uh, that you may not necessarily be the smartest person in the room or have the best idea all the time. Someone else
Hmm.
who the most applicable idea will come from a corner that you never knew. Listening to people and hearing them out is has been the most helpful thing, and it's something that I still haven't perfected. But when I do that, it's been extremely helpful. I think. Sorry, what was the question again? I forget
Like,
the
what are
question.
some of the main advices you will give for people who are transitioning from engineering to management that would help them? You said
I
listening to people is one thing.
Listening to people is one thing, and second is you can't be at every place at the same time. You need to learn
Hmm.
to delegate, and you need to build trust, and you need to
Okay.
do things to build trust. You can't have trust from day one. It is something that is built and over a period of time, and the more you build trust, the better your team will be,
Relationships will
the
be.
better
Okay.
better your relationships will be, and that is when and so you want to delegate, you want to build trust, uh, and recognize people for what they're doing.
People for what they have already done.
Yeah, yeah. And I think those are the ones that immediately come to mind. If there are any more, that I'll bring that forward. But yeah,
Well, thanks, Chaitanya, for that answer. I think it will help a lot of people. So, Chaitanya, on a lighter note, during college days and all, you're also very much interested in video games and computer games, right? Have you
mhm.
kept up with them? Do you still play? And what is on your screens these days? Would like to know that also.
I have not. I think I have not kept up with that since
Okay.
I was. It did carry over till my studies here,
Hmm.
but uh, 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 yeah, but then thereafter, I think once I started my professional work, it didn't.
Because you were pretty pro, right? I believe in games like Age of
Yeah, yeah,
Empires, and there were
yeah.
many.
It was, yeah. And then I think it was at the start of the startups where the that we
Okay.
talked about, where the work life balance was
Okay. Okay. So
skewed.
one of the
So
things that went away was games also. Oh,
yeah, yeah, and I don't regret it. That something else took its place, and so I'm all the more happy with it.
sure. Okay. Just wanted to know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, what it has replaced with is now I cook a lot. I learned a lot about. It took me about I don't know 10 years or so, but now I cook a lot. I have me not gaming now has allowed me to just have more of a social exercise, which is
Okay.
have people
So
over for food or
so the out of
uh,
time that was being spent there, now you have kind of utilized it for
yeah,
some other endeavors.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
That's fun to hear. So, Chaitanya, one more thing, like let's say some people are trying to create a new company or a new startup, right? And go ahead. You're saying
Before you
something.
say that, I think there was one other key thing that I wanted to
Mm,
bring up,
mm,
for folks who wanted to be tech leads, which is modulation of information.
mm,
If you have an idea or a
mm,
proposal of what you want to build or what you want
mm,
or a proposal, the information
mm,
that you want to convey to your higher upper stakeholders, your managers and
mm.
other people, is different than the information that your peers or the people reporting up to
Your
you,
team,
not
basically.
reporting, but your team, the detail that is very different.
Okay.
You can break that into, typically you can break that into what,
Mm.
why, and how.
Okay.
You can break a proposal
Mm-hmm.
into a what, why, and a how frame of structure. The stakeholders would be interested in the what and the why, which is your manager or people who are going to be resourcing. They would say, why should I put resources in this? Why is this important to prioritize it? They don't really care how it is being solved. So for them, is it a strategic move? Their questions are, is this a strategic move? And so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that is the level of information that you need. But when you're actually working with your team and when you're actually building up the proposal, that is where the what, why, and and the how you're building it, and some of the details need
That
to be
leverage
fleshed
is
out.
up to you with your report is how you want to build it. So you're saying basically the language, not the necessary language, the information that people are interested in at different levels will be different, and people who
Very
are
different.
going
Yeah.
into management have to balance that. Of
Very,
course,
yeah. It
the
is
terms
very, very
also,
different.
the language that you use. Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Very, very different. You'll be saying the same thing in two sentences, and you'll be saying the same thing in paragraphs and
Okay.
slides and
Okay.
proof of concepts. And you need to know your audience.
I think that's a very interesting observation because I'll tell you from my own experience, because since we have been doing engineering from a long point of time, we don't necessarily immediately, it doesn't strike to us that what kind of answers they are expecting from us, and we may tend to kind of give engineering responses to their management questions, and it takes a bit of time and learning curve to realize that they're not really interested in details, as you mentioned, in the house of your problem solving, but more like what you are doing and by when you will be finishing it, how much resources you are going to consume. So, and at the same time, the team will be, which will be reporting to you, will have different expectations, different kind of, they will, I think, prefer to be more guided by you, inspired by you, help in problem
Absolutely.
solving. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
That's a very fair point. Yeah.
Information
Okay.
modulation is very key.
Okay. That's very key to kind of becoming a good manager.
Yeah, absolutely. You were going to ask a question. I interrupted you.
I was asking something about, I was asking like, let's say someone wants to start a new company, which is a very, very tech focused startup. Okay. What kind of things those founding members should keep in mind when they want to kind of hire new talent, hire kind of, and he also basically bring new resources, new people, new engineers, right?
Hmm.
Should they focus more on the first idea itself, or should they focus more on hiring? Should they focus more on technology? How should kind of I know there is no kind of boilerplate to this, but if you had to start your own company, what would your focus be? And that's the way I can put this question.
I think uh, w- uh, what uh, if I have an idea of
Hmm.
what the company is, then
Hmm.
really focus, narrow down into what really needs to be built, and just go through the exercise. The first thing would be just go through the exercise of what do I really want to build, and then see, do I have, and what do I need to do to either get funding, or is that something that I can build on my own, or is that something that I need to hire people up? More often than not, you can cobble something together and have it fund worthy, ready for, you can create a
Something
pitch.
like MVP you're talking about, basically.
Yeah, and it doesn't even need to work. I remember, and then you can use that as a basis to
Mm. Okay.
figure out what are the next steps. I remember, I think it was either Slack or some other company. They were trying some trying a new idea out, and they didn't know that was going to work. So they were just using printouts as, this is
Okay.
what
Okay.
it could look like. Printouts of, they cobbled something together, and he was
Basically,
using
there's some
printouts.
templates they made and kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
went
There
ahead
was
with that.
nothing
Okay.
behind it. So long
That's
as you're,
interesting.
yeah,
Okay. So you are saying first thing you would like to do is kind of get the clear sense of what you want to build. Okay. And
yeah,
then
yeah.
second step would be like hiring people or kind of. So
Or how are you
there is
figuring
one
out
more
how
question.
you're going to build it?
In the sense, a lot of technopreneurs or solopreneurs, nowadays they are also in fashion where people are doing a lot of things by themselves. Okay. They
Hmm.
start a company, they sometimes they are creating some products, and if they have, let's say, engineering background and all, they want to develop a lot of products many times by themselves with very small team, like one or two team, and you can say they are like bootstrap companies. Okay, they have some idea and they kind of invest their own money and then kind of develop the product, and then the idea is to take it to a certain level and then go to the investors. But at the same time, what I feel sometimes is like they may end up kind of investing a lot of money in that process. Let's say if this thing goes on for a year, because I have a friend who has been doing a startup himself, and he has been in that space for let's say like 3 years. He hasn't raised really good amount of funding. He wants to do it. He wants to take it to a certain level and then go for funding. But in the meanwhile, since he is not working anywhere, there is no source of income, steady income as such, and he's putting a lot of money all by himself and some friends. Do you think that's a good idea? Probably to get some kind of small funding and then developing the products.
Yeah, I think you would want to get some sort of funding, because it's not just the money, that it's not just a question of influx of money or giving up portion of your equity or what have you. What you would also get out of it is the VC firms. This is not their first
Venture.
time doing this. Yeah, first time doing this. They have a lot of experience in it, so they will. So you are going to be using them as a, even as you're looking to fund, you are going to use them as, well, am I really building the right thing? So that will also offer you a pivot moment. Let's say through a few of those discussions, you did land a firm that is willing to invest. They also have a lot of experience in how do we really help you grow, even if some of these skills are not sharpened. How do we help
Hmm.
you? And the third is they also have their own recruiting spaces, so which they can run and help you connect with the right developers or help you recruit the right developers. And even in their network of other companies that they are funding, they will see if there is a symbiotic relationship in some way or the other that can happen. So
Okay.
it's not just the money that they're giving you. I think they in return you are also getting ex, a lot of the experience that they have of that you can.
I think in there, okay. You're saying that if you end up associating with a good VC firm, you just don't get funding, you get a lot of ecosystem where you will get access to a lot of resources and maybe I would say free marketing also in a way because you can kind of pick a lot of free people, a lot of clients or other companies who may be interested in that product. Those VCs can help you, they can mediate those things, and so it might be a
Absolutely.
good idea to go for funding.
Yeah, absolutely. Because especially if and it is all the more helpful if you're a first time
Hmm.
founder, or if this is your first time doing this, because you don't know what the ropes are. If this is your second time or third time, you've been through the
With the grind
loops.
already.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you know what to expect, what not to expect. So you may not necessarily need that, or you may even say,
Okay.
okay, and this is the
Mhm.
time when I need it.
Okay.
But if you're the first time, then yeah, you would want to reach out to others who have
Okay.
already been in this
You
space.
can be well supported there. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting thought. So so you were saying that if it's better to be connected with VC funds or some other funding, kind of maybe angel funding itself or something, because they would not just come with funding, they would come with whole ecosystem. And if you are having a good idea, good product, you might as well use those kind of resources to your maximum
Yeah,
optimal usage.
absolutely.
Okay.
And also use them as a sounding board if you need to pivot.
You can kind of pitch your product to them first, and then probably you'll get your feedback, and then you can go to the higher market or
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay,
Goes
that's
through a
an
lot
interesting thought. Okay,
goes through a lot of scrutiny when money is involved.
that's also true. Okay, and but I think would like to mention this that people who bootstrap, right? One thing is their honesty and intention is very clear because they don't want to waste someone's money. That's why they have put their money first. And probably, I'm not sure how much VCs value that or not, but I think if someone has survived, let's say 3 years with his own money, probably VCs would kind of be more kind towards them and understand their intentions. Maybe they will open up their doors to those kind of companies also. Just a side thought.
Yeah, it could be.
Hmm.
Uh, it might just entirely be the nature of the
Hmm.
idea and the nature of the conversation,
Okay. Okay.
because the question also becomes is, what have they been doing for those 3 years? Have they been talking to people? Have they been making deals? Have they been
Okay.
What is the network they have, and do they have clients and stuff like that? So that definitely matters. But I think just that they were self-funding for the last X amount of years or what have you, maybe one factor. It may not be the only factor that people would consider. They would like, what is the company actually doing? It would be the bottom line. That
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So coming back to the next section, Chaitanya, what are your current interests and what trends are you following, in the terms of technology or in general?
Oh, I'm one of my main focus right now is in the iOS space. Continues to be in the iOS space, but more so now is in it's expanded into all things that is uh, product development. And what that means really is, as the product team comes up with, this is what we want to build, and it could be a paragraph of we need to build. Uh, I would be pairing with them to bridge the gap of what does that really translate to engineering, and what needs to be built, what can be built now, and what can be built later. And that would impact not just one space, which is um, one platform. It would be anything that is front end and anything that is back end and anything that is other streams of as well, which is say and the date the analytics, marketing campaigns, and what have you, and how does all of that integrate together. So that is where a lot of what I do these days.
Basically, more like you're thinking like an entrepreneur, where you have some interest in technology and how you can do other things around it also, like marketing technology, how all the integration can happen, and then the real value would come out of that.
Yeah, it's like essentially we've been in a phase where we have been launching a few 0 to 1 products, which is essentially that it started out as a one-liner, moved on to a one-pager, and then it got the
Okay.
necessary resourcing to say, okay, let's build the product out of this. When that decision happened, taking that to actually creating code and writing it is where I come into play. And yeah, so
Okay. You're talking in the context of Zillow, I believe, right?
no, I'm talking in the context of masterclass, which is where I work right now.
Masterclass, sorry, one second.
Yeah,
Sorry, I completely forgot about masterclass. So you are currently working in masterclass, right?
that's right.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all that I had to ask actually.
Okay.
Only only thing is like I also believe it's very late for you right now. But
I'm sorry.
okay, do you have a couple of more minutes for us? Okay, so Chaitanya, coming from again to the same question, like where we were discussing when you start a company, this is what you will start with. First you will kind of plan your MVP, and then you will go with some basic funding, and then you will also go for hiring, right? So hiring is where I wanted to focus, if you have some time. Like,
Mhm.
how do you do a good hire? Okay, because that is also very, very central to kind of getting a successful startup. And a lot of personally, what I've experienced is in my previous startup, right? We were taking like 50, 60, 70 interviews, and then we were getting one good hire.
Mhm.
And they also sometimes turn up, sometimes don't turn up. So if you are right, how have you been doing it, and what's your success ratio here to get a good hire after doing all these interviews?
Success ratio really depends on the kind of role you're hiring. If you're hiring for a very senior role,
Hmm.
then you need the requisition remains open for months on end before you are able to land someone, just because we are not being able to find the right candidate. If it's a different kind of role, then you're likely to be able to find more bigger talent pool. Now, having said that, I've been in both situations where we have had the need to just hire someone who's capable but not very sharp in who sorry let me rephrase that, who is capable but is not the most experienced in that space. So essentially what you're saying is, so you the situation says, okay, I can hire someone and have them grow into this role.
Hmm.
And
Understood.
or
Okay.
you have a situation where you have a project, it needs to be executed in a certain way, and you need someone with a very strong expertise, and so you train your expectations differently, because you don't have the opportunity or the
Okay.
runway for having them grow into that role. So depending on the needs of someone who's looking to hire, if that is where you would want to evaluate, can I grow this person into a role? and or do I need to put out a fire or not a fire?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And even when you're hiring people who can grow into a role, it doesn't necessarily need to be their area of expertise, which is, let's say, as an example, if you have a role for mobile platforms, but they are in web platforms, but they've displayed that they are smart and they exhibited the willingness to switch to mobile platforms, that is enough. People are smart enough to switch and do their own things. They need that environment of growth. You are going in saying, I want to invest time and allow them to grow in, because that comes with a different budget that you're hiring for. The budget is very different for both scenarios.
So, so what I understand is like there are two things here. One is the budget itself when you're hiring. Based on that, you would like to kind of focus on certain candidates and not. And the other thing is like how much do you want to invest in? If you have an urgent requirement where a person is supposed to join in and then take the company to a certain or take certain products to certain goals, you don't want then to hire somebody who needs training and lot of kind of obviously because then your goals may not be achieved. And on the other hand, you are also saying that if someone is really capable, really smart, irrespective of certain, technological restraints, maybe he has worked on mobile, ecosystem, but not web or vice versa. Those are not constraints. If someone is willing to kind of work hard, someone shows real honest interest, that transition should be easy.
Yeah. I think my language is just one way of expressing an idea. They'll be able to switch. A smart person would be able to switch.
And the question is attitude versus skill. Like, what would you kind of focus more on if because someone is let's say very smart, very talented, but you see some signs of attitude issues. How would you kind of rate there?
I think I would say it would you certainly don't want in someone who has a bad attitude with everything, but it's more detrimental if that person is at a senior level, or
Hmm.
you're hiring this person on an experience level and they have a bad attitude. You don't want to do that, because you would if the senior person is looked upon as a multiplier to looked upon to have a multiplier effect, then they may
Hmm.
not have the multiplier effect because of the bad attitude. Your gains
Negative
would
things
be
may multiply then.
sorry.
Negative things may get
Yeah,
multiplied then.
yeah, exactly. So you and your gains might be short lived or short term,
Okay. Okay.
and uh, and vice versa. If you have someone who is on a uh, 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 at a low where in another role where they may not necessarily uh, have a multiplier effect, but you still want to, and but if they have a bad attitude, you'd want to see if they can be coached into not having that, because they may not have had an experience with with how do you manage circumstance or an environment and then handle that situation appropriately. So that would be my take on
So it's a interesting take because so what I understand is like if you are at lower level, let's say it's probably a little bit attitude issues can be managed because your sphere of influence is lesser. The more you grow at higher level, I think people should be focusing more on attitude because your sphere of influence is large. You can kind of influence the whole company with wrong moves and wrong decisions, and you can also
yeah,
bring a lot of cultural changes, I guess.
absolutely. And I just wanted to touch upon the sphere of influence being smaller on the other side, which is you're also giving them the benefit of doubt that they may not really have had the experience on how to
Okay.
tackle these scenarios, and you're saying, okay, let's try to shape them.
Can't give the same benefit of doubt to senior people because they already have so much experience, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. Okay. Okay, Chaitanya. So, I think we have learned a lot, and probably I think these things, if we can kind of summarize, basically when we are doing hiring, the more kind of senior roles you get, the more careful you should be and kind of be very you should always give a benefit of doubt to people who are new who haven't learned much, but if you give this benefit of doubt to some C-suite executives probably can be disastrous because they can kind of change things for bad also.
Absolutely.
Okay. And last question, like culture wise, right? Since you have also worked in different kinds of company, maybe small and big, all, what are some of the organizational cultures that are common across these companies? What are some of the cultural things that are pretty different there? And some of the cultural, you know, should I say, parameters where you see a lot of advantage and returns coming in the company, revenue-wise also all the way till, let's say.
I think that was a. I mean, need your help to guide me through the three questions, because if I forget.
My
Uh,
question is like first,
Go
You
on.
see, there are what are some of the major cultural differences that you have observed in different companies? Okay, and let's go with this first question itself first.
Yeah, yeah. I think with in when in my past companies, they were fairly much more established, like Zillow, and there the focus was a lot on how do we grow people into, and or essentially focusing more on work is there, but focus on people, uh, uh, because there is because they are human at the end of the day, and then work with them, and
They value the
that
people who work there basically. So they value the people who work there, and they want to ensure that they are well settled and everything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they were taking those the feedback
Mm-hmm.
very, very well, and that was that. In the current company, I think, sorry, in even in the previous one of the things that shined was two couple of things that shined was we would a group of us would plan for events, morale events, what have you, and these were not just food catered into some things. We would actually go out and do activities, which actually helped strengthen bonds in the team. And the other was this very interesting approach of everybody in the company is a mentor, can be a mentor. It doesn't come with any responsibility, in the sense that you are not responsible for this other person, but everybody
Mm-hmm.
has different skills in their lives or at
Mm-hmm.
work,
Okay.
and you can sign up to be a mentee with them, and you need to figure out what the scheduling and everything works. But that in itself help people have a lot more conversations with others that who had more experience, and it didn't necessarily have to do with work. It could be anything. And so that, I think, was one of the shining examples of how they were looking to invest in
You
people
mean to
there.
say not just related to work, but you can have some kind of relationship where you're talking about things outside the work also, like finance or
Absolutely.
whatever you are interested in or your interest, side interest, and that was also kind of appreciated.
Absolutely. You could very well say, hey, you could also have conversations on, I want to be a manager, what skills should I be picking up, and what is expected, and people would guide you through that. And I've had many conversations like that, and I think
Okay.
if there is one thing that I've walked away with in that experience is everybody will do better if they have a mentor. They know stuff, even if you're looking very close, even if you are just looking through the lens of career progression.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will be doing many folds better if they have a mentor, because they have experience and the background that you don't have,
Okay.
and you can't discount that.
Basically, you will get the perspective which other person has only when you kind of interact with them, and you can't just imagine everything by yourself.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
that not work out. Okay, okay. So that's a very interesting thing. So, so was there like a just to elaborate more on that point, where you could just approach anybody and ask him to be your mentor? Was there any organizational support in that, or it was more like informal but respected practice there?
The organization support was in took form of the VPs and so on,
Mm.
socializing it and making people aware of it.
Okay.
Whenever there was an all hands or a meeting of that stature,
Okay.
they would say, okay, hey, you can go do this, you can go do this, and that I think was enough to get things going.
I think that also kind of sometimes lightens you and you enjoy, because I remember in one of the earlier organizations there was a Slack channel where people would kind of ask other people that they are going on evening walks, would they like to go with them?
Hmm.
Those kind of
Hmm.
things also they used to do, and people used to enjoy those also. They used to kind of make small groups of similar minded people and kind of not just discuss about work but discuss about their family lives and other interests
Absolutely.
also.
It has it has a tremendous impact that you can only experience. You can't
You can't
experience
okay
it without
talk
doing it.
about it. Okay, correct. And I think the last question was like, how much do you think an organizational culture impacts the overall growth of the company, in terms of eventually, let's say, revenue or whatever?
I think it has a tremendous impact. I know I just used that word, but it has a tremendous impact, mainly because you would end up with your employees being happier and being fulfilled, and what that translates as is longer tenures in the company, which is one of the biggest costs that companies have to pay for. Uh,
I mean, attrition
and
will be low if people enjoy working in that company. Okay,
yeah, attrition will be low. Uh, and that I think would be is something that just adds
cost
up
saving.
over time. And
Okay,
people, they're also instilling that culture on people who are just joining in. So I think that is extremely valuable for a company to have a very good culture.
and does people become more productive in such kind of environments? I mean, like if there is overall no negativity and people are helping each other, have you seen that also happening? The overall productivity of the teams increasing?
Yeah, I think, as I said, the people are more happier and more
Hmm.
fulfilled, and what that really translates into is motivated. And that is where you would see people coming together to solve a problem rather than pointing fingers. Is one
People
outcome
would
it would.
step up to take more
Yeah,
responsibilities in such environments.
yeah,
They would not
exactly.
worry about a lot of crosstalk and negativity and all those things if they feel motivated. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that would definitely translates as productivity. It may not
Okay.
translate as the lines of code directly, but it actually is solving problems and taking initiatives is a big.
I think if all the people's problem are solved, then they can focus on the real,
Yeah,
product
exactly.
problems.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. You put it very succinctly.
Okay. Okay, Chaitanya, thanks for your time. I think that's all that I had to ask. It's really great connecting with you after quite a bit of time, and maybe we should do more such kind of discussions and kind of, share whatever we have learned through each, all our experiences, and other people can also kind of listen to these kind of, discussions because many people want to go to US and study there and kind of build their careers, and they have a lot of doubts, lot of questions, lot of anxieties also at times because they haven't been through that journey, right? So if people like you can kind of share your wisdom and uh, your knowledge or your experiences, it really helps people to make better decisions, become better engineers, better managers, and that's all I had to say. Chetan, thanks for your time. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me over. I had a lot of fun too. The
Mm.
question made my memory jog, and okay, what was my experience here? But yeah, happy to help however I can. And you're right that we've connected after a long time, and we should do
Hmm.
more often. We should connect more often.
Thanks, Chetan. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. See you.
Yeah, you too. Bye.